Greetings everyone, welcome back to the channel. Before we dive into today's episode, we have a little bit of housekeeping to take care of. First of all, I just want to say thank you to everyone who commented on the last video and showed their support for the book. But I also wanted to announce that we did it. The Civilian Rights Hand Guide actually made it on a few different bestseller lists, which is crazy to me. At one point, it was even ranked #1 in the civilian rights category, and it was beating the Constitution, which is freaking insane. I'm not sure what actually determines your rank for a bestseller list, but that's just crazy to me. But I definitely couldn't have done it without you guys, so thank you. Thank you so much. And since it went so well last time, I think it's time to do another giveaway. But instead of picking winners from the YouTube comments, I'll actually be randomly picking them from the Amazon reviews. See, here's the thing. Although we did manage to get the book on a few different bestseller lists, as you can see, it doesn't actually have that many reviews. Amazon has like a totally different algorithm that I've been trying to wrap my head around lately. And one thing I've learned is that reviews matter a lot to the digital gods over at Amazon. And we're severely lacking in that department. But with your help, hopefully we can change that. In a week or so after this video's release, I'll be picking 20 random reviewers to send a free copy of the book. And if you can show me that you've already purchased the book, then I'll send you an autographed copy for free instead. And you can't just slap down 5 stars and call it a day. You gotta actually write something down in order for Amazon to count it in their algorithm. And it's the only way that the random selector is able to pick a reviewer. It only takes like 5 seconds, and it's a really good way to help the book reach new readers who might not even know about ATA. And in my opinion, those might be the most important readers to reach, if you know what I mean. You don't have to buy the book to review it, and it's a great way to support the book without it actually costing you anything. And if you already bought the book, then it would mean a lot to me if you could take the time to leave a review. Anyway, that's enough about the book. I actually have an episode for you today, and I'm trying something a little bit different, so let's just dive right in.
The Attorney General says the indictments have a lot to do with how truthful the officers were during the investigation.
Copy 1050 just occurred, Bar Harbor.
The indictments of Anne Arundel County Police Corporal Kieran Schnell and Officer Eddie Vasquez are based on their actions during what the Attorney General calls an unauthorized high-speed chase December 7th of last year in Pasadena that ended in a deadly crash.
So let me take you back to almost exactly a year ago. Officer Eddie Vasquez of the Anne Arundel County Police Department in Maryland was on patrol when he noticed 4 cars, including a white Infiniti sedan, driving southbound at about the same speed on Fort Smallwood Road in Pasadena. For some unknown reason, Officer Vasquez quickly pulled onto the road in pursuit of all 4 vehicles. The white Infiniti started to speed up as the officer approached the group and broke away from the group as the officer got closer. And this prompted Officer Vasquez to pursue the white car and drive right past the other 3 cars. None of the court documents I was able to find said anything about what exactly prompted Officer Vasquez to start chasing these cars or what made him single out the white Infiniti in particular. But once the white car broke away from the group, it started a high-speed chase. So as this chase was happening, Officer Vasquez just so happened to drive past his co-worker, which was Officer Kieran Schnell, who decided to join in on the pursuit himself. The 2 officers chased this vehicle along a local drawbridge known as Stony Creek Bridge. And this part of the pursuit was actually captured on surveillance footage, so take a look at this. So did you notice anything missing during that pursuit? Here, let's watch it again from a different angle and let's see if you notice anything here. Did you notice that neither of the cops that were chasing this car had their emergency lights activated? I mean, how incredibly reckless is that? They were chasing a car over a 2-lane bridge that has a 35-mile-per-hour speed limit in the middle of the night, going well over 100 miles per hour with no emergency sirens or lights on whatsoever. But believe it or not, that's just the beginning of the insanity of this story. About 3 miles after Officer Vasquez initiated his pursuit, the white Infiniti crashed into a utility pole.
3 Adam 2.
Copy 1050 just occurred, Bar Harbor, Rivera Drive.
Sir, are you okay?
3 Charlie 1, 10-9.
Is there anyone I'm trying to see?
The driver of the vehicle survived with critical injuries, but the passenger of the vehicle, 22-year-old Damian Garner, was pronounced dead at the scene. But it wasn't until officers arrived at the crash, like seconds after it had taken place, that they actually decided to turn on their body camera or alert dispatch to anything going on. That's right. Throughout this entire pursuit, neither one of these officers turned on their emergency lights. They didn't contact dispatch. They didn't alert a supervisor or report anything. If it wasn't for the footage we just watched of them going over that drawbridge, there probably wouldn't be any evidence whatsoever of a pursuit having taken place. Once the officers saw that the vehicle crashed, they turned on their body cameras and just reported that a crash had happened. They didn't mention anything about the pursuit that led up to the crash to their supervisors or any of their coworkers. And Vasquez even wrote an incident report in which he never mentioned anything about a pursuit. So based on what I've read from the court documents, it seems like the two cops were just trying to play it off like they had just encountered this wreck or just happened to witness it. They didn't want anyone to know that they had engaged in a high-speed pursuit for probably no reason and endangered the lives of everyone around them and actually contributed to the death of someone. I'm sure they knew very well that they shouldn't have engaged in that pursuit and what the repercussions might be, considering that someone's life was lost. Officers were working the scene of this crash for like 3 hours after it happened, including Vasquez and Schnell. So they both had ample opportunity to come clean and tell the truth about what happened. The court documents specifically say that Vasquez spoke to his superiors multiple times on the scene and made several, quote, factual misrepresentations and material omissions during those conversations. So a day after the crash happened, the Anne Arundel Police Department found some kind of evidence that led them to believe that a pursuit might have happened. The documents don't say what exactly that evidence was, but it could have been that random guy that they almost crashed into on the bridge, if I had to guess. If I were that guy, I would be pretty pissed about almost getting hit by 3 different people, especially if 2 of them were cops with no lights on. He might have even called in a police report not knowing that it was 2 cop cars that had passed him because there were no lights on. I mean, how would he have identified them going past him at 100 miles an hour with no emergency lights on? And that same logic goes for the driver of the white car. For all he knew, some random vehicle was aggressively approaching him from behind. I mean, it's a natural reaction to want to get away from a perceived threat. It could definitely be argued that he had no idea he was even being pursued by police officers, considering they didn't have their emergency lights on. I mean, that is the whole point of emergency lights. Anyway, so once the officers located this miraculous evidence, they contacted the Maryland State Police to try to take over the investigation. But the Maryland State Police turned over the investigation to the Maryland Attorney General's Independent Investigation Division. After a nearly year-long investigation, the Attorney General's office announced that they will be filing charges against both of the officers for official misconduct.
Today, our office's Independent Investigation Division, the IID, is announcing indictments of 2 officers of the Anne Arundel County Police Department for misconduct in office.
Both of these cops have been at that department for nearly 5 years before this happened, so there's just no excuse for that kind of behavior. I'm glad to see that the state not only prosecuted these officers, but was willing to take on the investigation. It seems like they were motivated and they wanted to take on investigations involving police corruption, which is refreshing. And this is kind of reflected in one of the things that Maryland's Attorney General Anthony Brown said during that live announcement.
In 2021, the General Assembly passed a law that granted the Office of the Attorney General the authority to investigate all police-involved deaths of civilians. 2 years later, that authority was expanded to prosecute all cases involving police-involved deaths if it is determined, and only if it is determined, that there is sufficient evidence to support criminal charges. As the General Assembly was debating the expanded authority bill in Annapolis, one state lawmaker said, "Don't let anyone tell you that accountability is mutually exclusive of public safety. In fact, we all know that they're codependent."
I think this is a great take from him, and I wish more states would grant this kind of authority to their attorneys general. I wish more states would grant more authority to that department of their state.
Okay.
All right, so the bigger question, though, is should these officers be held responsible for the death of Mr. Gardner? I've read some people saying that the white car should have never taken off in the first place, and I've read other people saying that the cop should be charged with manslaughter. Like I said before, I think there's at least an argument to be made that the driver did not know that he was being pursued by the police. Could have been getting pursued by the ops, you know what I'm saying? I mean, it's pretty reasonable to assume that if you're getting chased by a cop, then they're going to have their lights on. And if they don't, then maybe you're not being chased by a cop. The problem is there's really not enough known publicly about this case just yet to make any kind of conclusions in that regard. But here is the chief of the investigative team who charged the officers explaining why they were charged with what they were charged with.
These indictments are a culmination of an extensive 10-month-long investigation. After reviewing the evidence, a grand jury of Anne Arundel County residents indicted 2 Anne Arundel County police officers. Corporal Kieran Schnell and Officer Eddie Vasquez of the Anne Arundel County Police Department have each been charged with misconduct in office. The crime of misconduct in office is defined as corrupt behavior by a public officer in exercising the duties of his office or while acting under the color of his office. To prove misconduct in office beyond a reasonable doubt, a prosecutor must show that the defendant was a public officer who corruptly acted in their official capacity or took advantage of their public office.
So the point of this investigation wasn't to determine fault for the death of Mr. Gardner. It was to hold the officers accountable for the lies they told. What's even crazier is that despite these indictments, the Anne Arundel police chief, Amal Awad, and I'm not making up that name, said in a statement that the department investigated the incident and, quote, "Based on our review, we are not aware of any conduct demonstrated by our officers that rises to the level of a violation of criminal law. It's the age-old we've investigated ourselves and found no wrongdoing adage." Except this time it's their word against the word of the Attorney General, so good luck with that. The Attorney General's office has not announced whether or not there will be any charges against the driver, and it's kind of unclear who exactly is going to be held responsible for Mr. Gardner's death, if anyone. But I'm sure that will get sorted out with time, and I'll try to keep you updated as this goes along. That's all I got for you today, boys. Just wanted to make a quick video covering this story because I thought it was interesting and it's not really something we can cover on the ATA channel. Let me know what you think of this format in the comments below because I would like to do more videos like this if you're interested. And let me know if there are any other stories out there that you think I should cover. Don't forget to pick up your copy of the Civilian Rights Hand Guide, available now on Amazon, or at least leave a review so you can be entered into the giveaway. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video. Please subscribe. We're almost to 100K. We'll see you in the next one. Cheers.